Hello, everybody, and welcome into Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Before we dive in, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of TriStar Gold, an exploration and development company focused on precious metals properties in the Americas that have the potential to become significant producing mines. It's Nick Appleyard. Great to have you back on the program.
Hi, Jesse. Great. Thanks for having me back here.
Yeah, great to have you. Before we dive into TriStar and what you've been up to, I would love to start by getting your thoughts on the current macro overview of the gold sector and ask what are the main factors currently driving gold in your view, and how do you expect this bull market to unfold moving forward?
Okay, yeah, no, it's a great question, and I will just start by mentioning that I think as a CEO of a junior gold developer miner, I consider myself maybe an expert on certain things, but the macro level isn't always one of them. So I would guide people to, look where they get their information from, and I'll give you my answers and my thoughts on it anyway. But yeah, right now the world seems very unstable and unpredictable, and that macro level drives people to safe havens, and gold is the ultimate safe haven, really. I mean, I have a little bit of a passion for history. So you've been looking at the Roman Empire and watching, reading about the degrading of their coins as the Roman Empire fell, and it's like, and you sort of start to see the same thing, as gold is a value of money there. And if the value is disappearing, everything disappears with it. So, so the uncertainty we see, is definitely driving the gold price. As a market for us, there is divergence, I think, between the gold, or there has been, and the stocks, and that's something else to chat about in a different, as a different issue. So,
And the tariffs that have been levied recently by Trump, I just want to get your thoughts on those and how you think that might impact the overall global economy. Now, it seems like that's quite far away from the gold space, but we have seen him place a 50% tariff on copper imports. Very interesting move there. I wonder what your thoughts are, how you think that could impact copper and perhaps encourage copper production in the United States. But also, do you think gold could be on the list of tariff goods at some point in the future? And what would that do?
yeah, I mean, I'm just been reading a little bit about the copper tariffs and hearing about that. That will definitely drive copper exploration development in the US. It'll be interesting, as a CEO of a mining company. The thing that's going to be interesting to me is, does it drive a streamlining in the ability to develop projects? Because, in the past, I've known of some nice copper projects here in Arizona, with the Copper State, where they're just years and years and years tied up in ridiculous permitting issues. So I think the two things have to go hand in hand. I mean, they can put tariffs on to drive the development, but you've got to allow the development, do it properly, do it environmentally safely, but at least have goalposts that can be achieved. As for the gold, I think it sort of comes back to the previous answer. I mean, it creates that uncertainty and instability, and it drives people to think, okay, I need a percentage of my portfolio, or a government needs a percentage of its assets higher in gold because they don't know where else to put it. It just adds to that uncertainty and to that risk profile that is in everything else. And hopefully gold, maintains its role there as a store of wealth.
I believe it will, because we're also seeing central banks buying gold at a pace exceeding 1,000 tons annually for the past 3 years. To put that in context, the decade prior was around 400 to 500 tons on average. The World Gold Council a little while ago released a central bank gold reserve survey, and it seems like it says here respondents overwhelmingly 95% believe that global central bank gold reserves will increase over the next 12 months. This is despite being near all-time highs. What do you make of this aggressive outlook for central bank gold buying moving forward?
Well, I think we can rely on the fact that they have been buying in good levels, and that has got to help the price, and it shows that they are confident in what's happening. What they predict and project for the future, I would always, you sort of offer a little bit of caution on. I think there's another statistic out there that 2/3 of the people who tell you to buy something are selling it. So, but I don't think that's the case here. But you always need to be cautious and consider myself a sort of a cautious person. But no, I mean the fact that they're buying shows this uncertainty in the world. They've got reserves they need to store, and where are they going to put them? They don't know which currency is going to do well. The BRICS are doing different things. China's got its own issues. America's got debt that I don't think most of us can comprehend. The numbers are so big. It drives you towards gold. It's a solid thing. There's a bar of gold there. It's shiny and it'll be shiny forever, So.
Well, I want to talk about the gold mining sector specifically for a moment here, because the big complaint over the past few years was that it hasn't been exceeding the price of gold or the percentage gains in the metal itself. But year to date, we've seen the GDX and especially the GDXJ outperform gold itself by quite a wide margin, and of course, outperforming the broad market by an even wider margin. Do you think the market is finally starting to wake up and realize the value there? And could we be seeing that often discussed rotation of capital from overvalued tech into real hard assets in the form of these gold miners?
Yeah, because it's been a massive issue for juniors like us over the last 10 years that I've been running TriStar, and even from maybe a little bit before that, where there's been a divergence from the gold price to the gold sector, the developers and the explorers particularly. But even I think the producers have diverged as well. And I think what that's done to developers like ourselves, with that divergence, it makes access to capital that much harder. We just can't get it. Our share prices aren't there. The support isn't there. The capital isn't there, and everything's harder. But as you say, this year there seems to have been a change. I think that tension in the market between the high gold price and low valuations has been recognized. And we're seeing some of the big first movers move into it, so that the GDXJ has outperformed. Strangely enough, it's also been the best year that I can remember for access to capital for us as well. So it helps on everything. I mean, all of a sudden we can raise money. We can move the assets forward at a good pace. So yeah, I think it is showing that there's acknowledgement or recognition of this gap between the valuation that the companies are getting and the actual gold price. And it means there's a real value to be had in companies like TriStar, where, if you look at our valuation compared to where this will be valued in a couple of years with a built mine, it's insane.
Well, that's a perfect segue into discussing TriStar Gold. It has been a while since I last had you on the show. A lot of new subscribers, a lot of new viewers since then. So could you start by giving us an overview of the company and where you stand right now in your efforts?
Yeah, so TriStar, we're a single asset company. We've got the Castelo de Sonhos project in central Brazil in Pará State. It's a large development asset. We've got 1.4 million ounces in reserves. We've completed a pre-feasibility study. We've got our main environmental permit, and we're sort of ready to move that forward into final feasibility and production. And it's a very exciting time. But going back to the previous question, it's been a bit of a hard road to get here, because that market support and market valuation hasn't been there, but it's starting to appear right now. So things are looking really bright right now.
In May, you released a pre-feasibility study update for your main project there, Castelo de Sonhos. Can you walk us through the details of that pre-feasibility study update?
Yeah, so we completed the pre-feasibility study in November 2021, and that was the basis for our permit application. You needed that data to do the permits. Permits took 2 years, which is pretty standard globally these days. But obviously now, with the gold price so much higher, it was actually beyond the ranges of our highest sensitivity analysis from 2021. So it made sense that people wanted to know what the project looks like now. So we changed our base case gold price from $1,500 to $2,200, which is still very conservative. And, at $2,200, we have a post-tax IRR of 40%, MPV post-tax of $600 million. So it's a sensational project. I mean, it's right in Pará State. It's a great place to be. it's got the permit now. It's just the feasibility study and the construct to come. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, that's a great IRR at $2,200 gold. I don't foresee that being the gold price moving forward. So a lot of upside from there. Talk to us about operating in Brazil and specifically Pará State as a jurisdiction. How is your relationship with the local government and community, and are they supportive of your project?
Yeah, it's Brazil has been a great destination to build mines in recently. And one of the things I like to highlight is that there's been, I think, 6 mid-tier gold mines built in the last couple of years, between companies like G Mining, Hochschild's, Aura Minerals, Euro Copper. Oh, that's a copper mine, obviously, but there've been this line of construction of projects being built. They've all been done sort of on time, on schedule, successfully. I think only 2 of those projects were in Pará State. Obviously, G Mining are just up the road from us. It's a main mining jurisdiction in Brazil. It's almost their version of Nevada or Western Australia. It's sort of quite remote. It's massively large. If you get in the wrong location, you can have infrastructure challenges because there's nothing near you. We're very, very lucky that we're right next to the highways. We already have power and all that sort of stuff. But the state's been really good to work with. The state environmental agency is called SEMAS, and our engagement with them has been constant and very friendly and very professional. I think they've done a great job. You're frustrated sometimes with the speed of things, but I think that's standard. And probably beyond their control when you look internally at how they have to work. So it's been really, really good. And then on top of that, we have the village of Castelo de Sonhos that we take our name from. The project is about 20 kilometers from the site. Our relationship there is great as well. We have, we have buildings in the town. We travel in and out. People from there come to the site all the time. We do a lot of work in education and healthcare in the village as well. So we're helping them all the time, and they're very, very supportive of us. And that was shown as part of the permitting process we went through. We had to have public town hall meetings, and it's got to be run by the state, not by us. And they invite everybody. And the more people that turn up, the more weight that has in your permitting process. They want hundreds of people. We had 600 people turn up. And it was all very, very positive for the project. I mean, they're obvious questions. How does it impact me? They want to know that. But our sort of outreach ahead of that meeting had given them most of the answers, and they understood the project really well. So SEMAS have told us they were very impressed with the knowledge of our project within the greater community, and the support we had. We did have. Within Pará, you do have issues sometimes with the public prosecutors, and we went through that. But again, our support and the work that we did with SEMAS has allowed us to move past that. They just questioned if we'd done enough work with the Indigenous groups. We answered them and showed them at the town hall meeting, the Indigenous groups there, our engagement with them, how far they are from us, how there's zero impact from this project on any of their lands. So that issue is behind us. So the ability to work with these agencies, get them the right information. It seems to be really good. Like I said, you're not always happy with the speed it works, but it does work. So everything moves forward.
And is there any light you could shed for us on the team behind TriStar? Maybe starting with yourself and your own background, how you became CEO of the company, and then anything else you'd like to highlight regarding how you can leverage the expertise of the team on this project.
Okay, yeah. So I would consider that we've got a team, and what I took over the company about 10 years ago in a management takeover. I'd run a company called TriStar Gold before this, which was developing an asset in Nevada. And I came in with a team and trained the team up we have in Brazil as well to develop assets. And that's really what we have a real strength at doing, moving projects forward from a discovery that someone else may have done through to a production decision. We have, and that's what I've done at Chaparral. We had the Goldfield project in Nevada, took it from a discovery or a historic mine actually, through to construction decision, and that should be being built fairly soon. We did the same thing in Peru with a couple of mines, which became the core assets of Hochschild's mining there. Discovery through to production decision partner with a big miner. So that's sort of the path we're on here as well. We don't see ourselves as mine builders and operators with the current team we have, but we've done a sensationally good job of doing all of the work. And it's a broader spectrum of work than most people expect when you really want to build a mine. You have to have all of that community work, the great environmental work, a lot more detailed work on waste rock classification, tailings locations, a lot of information. So we've done that broad work to get this thing ready to build. But yeah, so that's my background. And, in the team we have down in Brazil, it's a fairly small, tight team, but they're geologists, an engineer, a lawyer, who all work focused on that, and they do a great job. I must say the Brazilian staff I've had are some of the best I've ever had, and they work as one of the best teams I've ever seen together. I think it's a really, really good. How would you put it? A great culture within the company that's developed where, like our community work, we all know it's important, but we don't leave it to our one community coordinator. It's a job that everyone does all of the time. So when you see photographs maybe in our deck of people working in the local school, helping them with Environmental Day or something, it might be our VP of operations, it might be our lawyer, it might be our project geologist there. Everybody gets bought into the culture of the company. And I think that's been really important for us to move it forward.
Fantastic. Well, could you give us shed some light on the timeline moving forward? What are the upcoming news items, your news flow that's coming up, catalysts that shareholders of the company can look forward to?
Yeah, so we just raised $10 million Canadian in May. We were very, very happy to welcome Eric Sprott as a major shareholder. He was a big part of that. And with that money now, we're going to be moving forward. We expect to start drilling in September. And that drilling will just be to add to the high-grade zones that we know, or we know where they are, the known ones, and extend them just ahead of getting into final feasibility study next year. So the idea would be into the final feasibility after that. This feasibility study, if it goes smoothly, could be completed by the end of next year, and then you're into a production decision after that. So pretty quick, really, into production. So all of that will be driving a lot of news and a lot of activity within the company. And then on top of that, there's this idea that we are looking for a big partner, or if we don't find a partner or an acquirer, someone bigger than us who is mine building and mine operating experience in Brazil, who can handle a mine of this size, because it's going to be producing, for the first 6-7 years, 150,000 ounces a year. It's a big mine. So, there could be announcements over, a partnership or some form of M&A activity related to that as well, which would be the big news.
Great. Well, I'll end by opening the floor to you. Is there anything we haven't yet touched on? Is there anything you'd like to emphasize that you think potential shareholders of TriStar Gold should be aware of?
I think the only thing is there's an outstanding opportunity right now in our shares. I think going through pre-feasibility study, which took us 1.5 years to do, then 2 years of permitting, which was incredibly important, incredibly detailed, but an incredibly boring phase for us with very little news flow. Coming out of that, we had the prosecutor when they challenged and had that question about our permit, which we've got through. But again, it created another 6 months with minimal news flow. We're free of all that to move forward now. So I think the news flow starts. The share price hasn't been exposed to the market anywhere near enough over the last couple of years. I attended my first major conference last week, aimed at retail investment. And, I think there's a really, really good opportunity for this share price to move up because we're so undervalued compared to peers right now. Because of that hard work we've been doing, we've had our head down working, and now it's time to reap some rewards from that.
Great. Well, I'm going to put a link in the description below to TriStar Gold's website, as well as social media for people who want to follow along with the company. Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a blast.
Thanks a lot.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.